The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was filled with nervous energy. Representatives from hundreds of worlds sat in their designated seats, their faces showing worry and confusion. The emergency session had been called without warning, and nobody knew exactly why they were there. Some whispered to each other, trying to guess what crisis had brought them together so suddenly. Ambassador Hyun-woo from Earth sat calmly in the human section. He was a middle-aged man with gray hair and kind eyes, but today those eyes held secrets. He wore the simple blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps, and his hands rested peacefully on the table in front of him. Other ambassadors kept glancing at him, some with suspicion, others with curiosity. The main lights dimmed, and a spotlight fell on the center podium. Ambassador Tala of the Vorath stepped forward. The Vorath were one of the oldest races in the galaxy, and Tala looked ancient even by their standards. Her skin was pale blue, and her eyes glowed with a soft silver light. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of countless centuries. "We have detected something disturbing," Tala began. Her voice was steady but firm. "Strange signals have been coming from the human territories. These signals are not normal communications. They match patterns we have not seen in millions of years. Patterns from the Dawn Wars." A wave of shocked gasps swept through the hall. The Dawn Wars were ancient history, so old that most species only knew them from legends. They were the great conflicts that had destroyed entire civilizations long before any of the current races had even developed space travel. The technology from those wars was supposed to be lost forever. Tala continued, her silver eyes now fixed on Hyun-woo. "We demand an explanation from Earth. What are humans doing with technology from the Dawn Wars? How did you even find such things? And most importantly, why have you kept this secret from the Council?" All eyes turned to Hyun-woo. The human ambassador stood slowly, showing no sign of fear or panic. He walked to the center podium with measured steps. When he reached the speaking platform, he took a moment to look around the hall, meeting the eyes of various ambassadors. "Honored members of the Council," Hyun-woo said, his voice clear and calm. "What Ambassador Tala says is true. We have been working with ancient technology, but before you judge us, please let me explain how this came to be." He activated a holographic display. Images appeared in the air above the podium, showing deep excavation sites on Earth and Mars. The images showed massive underground chambers and huge metallic structures buried in rock and ice. 300 years ago, Hyun-woo explained, miners on Mars found something strange deep underground. At first they thought it was just an unusual rock formation, but when they dug deeper they discovered it was something else entirely. It was a ship, a warship, and it was older than anything we had ever seen. The hologram shifted to show a massive vessel. It was sleek and dark, with lines and angles that seemed almost alive. The ship looked nothing like the vessels that any current civilization built. It was both beautiful and terrifying. "We named these vessels the Titan class," Hyun-woo said. "We found more of them buried on Earth as well. They were hidden deep in the ground in places where natural forces had covered them over millions of years. We have been studying them ever since." Ambassador Krell of the Thaxian Empire stood up, his face red with anger. The Thaxians were a warrior race, and Krell was known for his fierce temper. "You kept weapons of mass destruction hidden from the Council? This is a violation of every treaty we have. These ships could destroy entire worlds." Other voices joined in, some angry, some afraid. The hall erupted in chaos. Ambassadors were shouting, demanding answers, calling for sanctions against Earth. Some even suggested sending military forces to take control of the ships. Hyun-woo raised his hand, asking for silence. It took several minutes for the noise to die down. When he could finally speak again, his voice was still calm, but there was a hint of sadness in it. "I understand your anger and your fear," he said. "But please understand our position. When we found these ships, we were a young species. We had just joined the galactic community. We knew that if we revealed what we had found, there would be panic. There would be demands to destroy them or to hand them over. We could not let that happen." The hologram changed again, showing scientists working carefully on the ancient ships. They were studying every detail, documenting everything, but not using the weapons systems. These ships are not just weapons, Hyunwoo explained. They are history. They are knowledge. They hold secrets about the galaxy that have been lost for millions of years. We have been preserving them, learning from them, trying to understand who built them and why. Tala leaned forward in her seat. Her ancient eyes studied Hyunwoo carefully. You speak of preservation and knowledge. But these ships have weapon systems. Have you activated them? Have you tested their power? Hyunwoo hesitated for just a moment. That hesitation told everyone in the room what they needed to know. We have run simulations, he admitted. We needed to understand what these ships could do. The results were overwhelming. The technology is far beyond anything we have today. A single Titan-class ship could defeat an entire modern fleet. The hall fell silent. The weight of those words hung in the air like a physical presence. Everyone understood now just how powerful these ancient vessels were. Ambassador Vex of the Kalari Union spoke up. The Kalari were known for their logical minds and careful thinking. Ambassador Hyunwoo, you must understand how this looks to us. Humanity keeps secret weapons of unimaginable power. You study them for 300 years without telling anyone. How can we trust that you have peaceful intentions? Hyunwoo nodded slowly. You are right to question our intentions. Trust must be earned, and we have not given you reason to trust us in this matter. That is why I am here today, revealing this secret voluntarily. The Council did not discover this on their own. We chose to tell you. He paused, then continued. We are ready to open our research facilities to Council inspection. We will share our findings. We will allow representatives from other species to study the ships alongside our scientists. We want to prove that we have been acting as guardians, not as conquerors preparing for war. Tala stood again. Her expression was hard to read. The Council will need time to discuss this matter. We must decide how to proceed. But I will say, this Ambassador Hyunwoo, your willingness to share this information now does count for something. However, actions speak louder than words. We will be sending inspection teams immediately. Hyunwoo bowed his head slightly. The inspection teams will be welcome. We have nothing to hide anymore. As the session ended, ambassadors filed out of the hall in small groups, talking quietly among themselves. Some looked at Hyunwoo with suspicion. Others seemed thoughtful. A few even nodded to him with what might have been respect. Hyunwoo remained standing at the podium for a moment, alone. He knew that this was just the beginning. The revelation would shake the entire galaxy. Some would see it as a threat. Others might see it as an opportunity. But one thing was certain. The galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. He walked slowly back to his seat and gathered his things. As he left the hall, he sent a message to Earth. It was simple and direct. They know. Prepare for inspection teams, and prepare for whatever comes next. The message traveled across the stars, reaching Earth in moments. On the home world, leaders and scientists received the news with mixed emotions. Some felt relief that the secret was finally out. Others felt fear about what the galaxy might do. But all of them knew that humanity had just entered a new and uncertain chapter in its history. The ancient ships that had been hidden for so long were now the focus of galactic attention, and whatever happened next would determine the future of the human race among the stars. The red sands of Mars stretched endlessly in every direction. Captain Jiwon stood at the edge of the excavation site, looking down into the massive pit that human engineers had carved into the planet's surface. Deep below, barely visible in the artificial lights, was the dark hull of a Titan-class ship. It had been buried here for millions of years, waiting to be found. Jiwon was a tall woman with sharp features and observant eyes. She had spent 10 years studying these ancient vessels, and she knew more about them than almost anyone alive. But even after all this time, the ship still held mysteries that amazed her. Every day brought new discoveries, new questions, new wonders. Captain, you need to see this, a voice called from her communication device. It was Dr. Bora, the lead scientist on the research team. Her voice was excited, almost breathless. We found something in the ship's data core. Something incredible. Jiwon made her way down into the excavation. The path was steep, with metal stairs bolted into the rock face. She passed teams of workers who nodded respectfully as she went by. Everyone knew the captain. She was firm but fair, and she cared deeply about both her crew and the work they were doing. At the bottom of the pit, a large airlock door led into the ship itself. Ji-won entered the code and stepped through. The interior of the Titan ship was like nothing else in the galaxy. The walls seemed to glow with a faint blue light. Strange symbols covered every surface, symbols that humanity was only beginning to understand. Dr. Bora was waiting in the main research chamber. She was a small woman with quick movements and an even quicker mind. Her hair was tied back in a practical bun and her eyes sparkled with excitement. Next to her stood Lieutenant Tai Yang, the ship's chief engineer. Tai Yang was young but brilliant, with a gift for understanding complex systems. "Show me," Ji-won said simply. Bora activated a holographic display. Images filled the air showing star maps, technical diagrams, and what looked like historical records. "We managed to decode another section of the ship's memory banks," she explained. "And we found out who built these ships. They called themselves the architects." The hologram shifted, showing images of tall, graceful beings. They looked almost human, but there was something different about them, something otherworldly. Their eyes were larger, their limbs more delicate. They moved with a fluid grace that seemed impossible. "The architects were the dominant species in the galaxy millions of years ago," Bora continued. "They were peaceful, focused on building and creating rather than conquering. But then something happened. A great threat emerged, something so dangerous that the architects had to build weapons. These ships were their answer to that threat." Taeyang stepped forward, pointing to technical readouts. "The ships are incredible, Captain. They can bend space and time. Their weapons can tear holes in reality itself. Their shields can withstand almost anything. A single Titan ship has more firepower than our entire space fleet combined." Ji-won studied the information carefully. What happened to the architects? If they were so powerful, where are they now? Bora's expression grew somber. "That's the mystery. The records end abruptly. The architects vanished. But before they disappeared, they hid these ships. They buried them on different worlds across the galaxy. It's as if they knew they were going to lose their war, and they wanted to preserve their technology for whoever came after." "But why Earth?" Ji-won asked. "Why hide so many ships on our world and on Mars?" That was when Taeyang showed them something new. He brought up images of ancient Earth from thousands of years ago. Cave paintings appeared in the hologram, showing primitive humans looking up at the sky. In the sky were shapes that looked remarkably like the Titan ships. "We found these paintings in caves around the world," Taeyang said. "Our ancestors saw the architects. They saw the ships. And they drew what they saw. The architects visited Earth long ago, back when humans were still primitive. Maybe they saw something in us. Maybe they chose us." Ji-won felt a chill run down her spine. The idea that ancient beings had chosen humanity for some purpose was both thrilling and terrifying. "Have you reported this to Admiral Sungmin?" Bora nodded. "Yes, he said he would come here personally to see the findings. He should arrive tomorrow." Admiral Sungmin was the head of Earth's Space Defense Forces. He was a stern man, a career military officer who had dedicated his life to protecting humanity. He was also one of the few people who knew the full truth about the Titan ships from the very beginning. The next day, Sungmin arrived at the Mars excavation site. He was an older man now, his hair completely gray, but his eyes were still sharp and alert. Ji-won met him at the airlock and escorted him down to the research chamber. Sungmin stood silently as Bora showed him everything they had discovered. He looked at the images of the architects, at the cave paintings, at the technical specifications of the ships. When the presentation was over, he was quiet for a long moment. "I have something to tell you," he said finally. "Something that has been kept secret even from most of you." He gestured to a private conference room. "Come with me." In the conference room, Sungmin activated a secure channel. He brought up old documents, some of them dating back 300 years to when the first Titan ship was discovered. "When we found the first ship on Mars," he began, "we also found a message. It was encoded in a way that took us decades to translate. But when we finally understood it, we learned something remarkable." He showed them the message. It was written in symbols that slowly transformed into human language. The message was simple but profound. "To those who inherit these stars, we leave our legacy. Guard it well. Use it wisely. The threat we faced may return. If it does, you must be ready. Ji-won read the message several times. They knew someone would find the ships. They left them as a gift and a warning. Sungmin nodded. That is why we kept them secret. We were not ready to bear this responsibility. The galaxy was not ready to know that such weapons existed. But now the Council knows. And soon, they will send inspectors. Before anyone could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Red lights flashed on the walls. Taeyang quickly checked his data pad, his face going pale. Captain, we have incoming ships. Council vessels. They are already in Mars orbit. Ji-won felt her stomach tighten. How many? 5 battle cruisers, Taeyang replied. And they are requesting immediate permission to land and begin inspections. Sungmin stood up, his expression grave. The Council does not waste time. Captain Ji-won, you will be the primary liaison with the inspection teams. Show them everything. Answer their questions honestly. We have nothing to hide. Several hours later, the Council inspection team arrived at the excavation site. Leading them was Investigator Quen, a member of the Zelkan species. The Zelkans were known for their analytical minds and their strict adherence to rules and procedures. Quen was tall and thin, with silver skin and eyes that seemed to see everything. Ji-won greeted them formally. Welcome to our research facility. We are ready to show you everything you wish to see. Quen nodded curtly. We will begin with the ship itself. I want to see these weapons that everyone is so concerned about. For the next several days, Ji-won and her team showed the inspectors everything. They walked through the ship's corridors. They examined the weapon systems. They reviewed the research data. Bora demonstrated the ship's capabilities using computer simulations. When Quen saw the simulations of the Titan ship's full power, his silver skin seemed to grow even paler. This is beyond anything we imagined, he said quietly. One ship like this could defeat any fleet in the galaxy. If humanity chose to use these for conquest, no one could stop you. Ji-won met his eyes steadily. That is exactly why we kept them secret. We knew others would fear them. But we are not conquerors, Investigator Quen. We are explorers. We are scientists. We seek knowledge, not domination. Quen was silent for a moment, then he said something that surprised everyone. I believe you, Captain. I can see in your eyes that you speak the truth. But belief is not enough. The Council will need proof. They will need guarantees. And even then, some will never trust humanity with such power. As the inspection continued, Ji-won realized that Quen was right. Trust could not be given through words alone. It had to be earned through actions. Humanity would need to prove itself worthy of the legacy the architects had left behind. The question was, would they get the chance? The emergency broadcast reached every corner of the galaxy at the same time. It showed burning cities and destroyed ships, planets under attack, people running in fear. The message was clear. The galaxy was at war. The attacker called themselves the Dominion. They had appeared without warning, striking multiple worlds simultaneously. Their leader was a warlord named Krex, a being whose cruelty was matched only by his ambition. He wanted to rule the galaxy, and he had the weapons to make it possible. What made the Dominion so dangerous was their technology. Somehow they had found fragments of architect weapons. These fragments were not complete ships like the Titans that humanity had discovered, but they were powerful enough. The Dominion's weapons could cut through normal shields like paper. Their ships moved faster than anything the Council fleet could field. In the Galactic Council chambers, panic had replaced order. Ambassadors shouted at each other, trying to come up with a plan. The Council's combined military forces had engaged the Dominion fleet several times, and each time they had been defeated. Thousands of lives were being lost every day. Then Krex sent his message. It appeared on every communication channel across the galaxy. His face filled billions of screens. He was a massive creature covered in dark armor with red eyes that burned with hatred. People of the galaxy, he said, his voice like grinding metal. I offer you a simple choice. Give me the Titan ships that humanity has hidden. Hand over those ancient weapons and I will spare your worlds. Refuse and I will turn every planet into ash. You have 3 days to decide. The message ended, leaving the galaxy in shocked silence. Everyone knew what this meant. Krex wanted the most powerful weapons ever created. If he got them, nothing could stop him. But if they refused to give them to him, millions would die. Ambassador Yunwu sat in the emergency council session, his face grave. Around him, other ambassadors were arguing about what to do. Some wanted to surrender the ships to save lives. Others insisted that giving such weapons to Krex would be even worse. Ambassador Tala of the Vorath spoke, her ancient voice cutting through the noise. We face an impossible choice. If we give Krex the Titan ships, he becomes unstoppable. If we refuse, countless innocents will die. There must be another way. Hyunwoo stood slowly. All eyes turned to him. Honorable council members, he began, there is another option. We could use one of the Titan ships ourselves. We could fight back. The chamber erupted in shouting. Some ambassadors supported the idea immediately. Others protested, saying it was too dangerous to activate such powerful weapons. The debate raged for hours. Finally, Ambassador Vex of the Kalari Union spoke. His logical mind had been working through the problem. If we are to use a Titan ship, he said, it cannot be under human control alone. The galaxy will never accept that. But if we create a joint crew with representatives from multiple species, including council oversight officers, then perhaps it could work. Hyunwoo nodded. We accept those terms. Humanity will provide the ship and our best crew, but we will work alongside council officers. Together we will stop the Dominion, the council voted. It was not unanimous, but the majority agreed. They would activate one Titan ship. They would give it one chance to save the galaxy. If it failed, or if humanity showed any sign of betrayal, the consequences would be severe. On Mars, Captain Ji-won received the orders directly from Admiral Sung-min. She was to take command of the Titan ship they had been studying. The ship would be activated for the first time in millions of years. She would lead it into battle against the Dominion. Ji-won stood in the research chamber, looking at the massive vessel through the observation window. The ship seemed to sense that something was different. The blue lights along its hull pulsed more brightly than before, as if the ancient machine was waking from a long sleep. Dr. Bora approached her carrying a data pad. Captain, we have been preparing the ship for activation. The systems are responding well, but I must warn you, we have never fully powered up a Titan before. We do not know exactly what will happen. Ji-won nodded. I understand the risks, but we have no choice. How long until the ship is ready? Bora checked her pad. 6 hours. Lieutenant Tae-yang is working on the power systems now. The council officers will arrive in 4 hours to join the crew. The ship needed a name. It could not go into battle as just a research specimen. Ji-won thought for a moment, then decided, we will call it the Eternal Vigil, because that is what we are doing, standing watch, protecting those who cannot protect themselves. 4 hours later, the council officers arrived. Leading them was Commander Nari, a human officer who had been serving in the council fleet for the past decade. She was a skilled tactician, respected throughout the military. With her came officers from 6 different species, each an expert in their field. Ji-won greeted them formally. Welcome aboard the Eternal Vigil. I know some of you have doubts about this mission, about working with humanity, about using these ancient weapons. I share those doubts, but I also know that people are dying while we hesitate, so I ask you to put aside your fears and work with us. Together we can stop the Dominion. Nari stepped forward and saluted. Captain Ji-won, Commander Nari reporting for duty. The Council has placed its trust in this mission. We will not let them down. The crew boarded the ship together. As they stepped inside, something remarkable happened. The ship's systems came to life all at once. Lights blazed throughout the corridors. Control panels activated, and a voice spoke, a voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Welcome, the voice said. It was calm and ancient, neither male nor female. I am Guardian, the intelligence that guides this vessel. I have waited a long time for worthy successors to the architects. I sense your purpose. You fight to protect others, not to conquer. You are worthy. The crew stood in stunned silence. The ship had an artificial intelligence, and it had been dormant all this time, waiting. Taeyang found his voice first. Guardian, can you help us fight the Dominion? I can, Guardian replied. I have analyzed their technology. They use corrupted fragments of architect weapons, powerful but incomplete. They have weaknesses. I can show you how to exploit them. Ji-won took command. Guardian, show us their weaknesses, and show us how to use this ship's weapons without causing unnecessary destruction. We fight to save lives, not take them. Understood, Guardian said. But I must warn you, The architects built these ships for a war that destroyed civilizations. The power at your command is immense. Use it wisely or you will become what you fight against. The warning hung in the air as the crew took their stations. Ji-won sat in the captain's chair, with Nari at her side coordinating with the council officers. Taeyang managed the engineering systems. Bora monitored the ship's functions from the research station on Mars. The Eternal Vigil powered up fully. Energy coursed through systems that had been silent for eons. The ship lifted from its underground berth, rising through the excavation site and into the Martian sky. Within moments it was in space, its sleek form gliding between the stars. Guardian provided coordinates. The Dominion fleet was gathering at a location called the Nexus Gateway, a strategic junction that connected major trade routes. If Krex controlled the Nexus, he could strike anywhere in the galaxy. Ji-won gave the order. Set course for the Nexus Gateway. Maximum speed. The ship responded instantly. Space seemed to bend around them as the Eternal Vigil jumped to faster-than-light travel. The journey that would take a normal ship days took them mere hours. As they traveled, Nari studied the tactical data that Guardian provided. She looked up at Ji-won with a mixture of hope and concern. Captain, if this information is accurate, we have a real chance. But the battle will be fierce. The Dominion has assembled a large fleet. They know someone will try to stop them. Ji-won met her eyes. Then we will show them what happens when people stand together. Not just humans, but all the species of the galaxy, united against tyranny. The Eternal Vigil emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Nexus Gateway. Before them stretched the Dominion fleet, hundreds of warships arranged in battle formation. At the center was Krex's flagship, a massive dreadnought bristling with weapons. The battle for the galaxy's future was about to begin. The Dominion fleet detected the Eternal Vigil immediately. Alarms rang across hundreds of warships as sensors picked up the ancient vessel's energy signature. On the bridge of his flagship, Krex watched the approaching ship with interest. So, Krex said, his voice rumbling like thunder, humanity has decided to use their ancient toys. How amusing. They send one ship against my entire fleet. Their arrogance will be their destruction. He gestured to his weapons officer. Destroy it. Show the galaxy what happens to those who defy the Dominion. On the Eternal Vigil, Captain Ji-won watched as the Dominion fleet began to move. Dozens of warships broke formation and advanced toward them. She could see the weapons charging, preparing to fire. All hands to battle stations, Ji-won ordered. Her voice was calm, but her heart was racing. This was it. The moment that would determine everything. Commander Nari coordinated the council officers at their stations. Shields at maximum. Weapons ready. All systems nominal, Captain. Guardian's voice filled the bridge. The enemy will fire in 10 seconds. Recommend evasive maneuvers. Ji-won gripped her command chair. No evasion. Let them fire. I want them to see what their weapons do against us. The Dominion ships unleashed a devastating barrage. Energy beams and missiles streaked through space, converging on the Eternal Vigil. The crew braced for impact. Across the bridge, officers held their breath. The weapons struck the Titan ship's shields. Light flared across the ancient vessel's hull. The bridge shook slightly, but only slightly. When the light faded, the Eternal Vigil remained completely undamaged. Not a single scratch marked its surface. Lieutenant Taeyang checked his readings, his eyes wide with amazement. Shields at 98%, Captain. Their weapons barely touched us. Ji-won allowed herself a small smile. Now let us show them what we can do. Guardian, target their weapon systems only. Disable those ships, but do not destroy them. Understood, Guardian replied. Targeting solutions calculated. Firing the Eternal Vigil's weapons activated. They were unlike anything the galaxy had seen in modern times. Beams of pure energy, so precise they could thread a needle at 1,000 kilometers, lanced out from the ancient ship. Each beam struck a Dominion vessel exactly where Guardian had aimed, at their weapon arrays. Explosions rippled across the Dominion ships as their weapons were destroyed. But the ships themselves remained intact. Their crews were unharmed. Within seconds, a dozen enemy vessels had been rendered completely helpless, drifting in space without firepower. On Krex's flagship, the warlord stared at his display in disbelief. What kind of weapons are those? Destroy that ship. Send everything we have. The entire Dominion fleet turned toward the Eternal Vigil. Hundreds of ships began firing simultaneously. The space around the Titan ship became a storm of energy and explosives. Surely nothing could survive such an assault. But the Eternal Vigil did more than survive. Its shields absorbed every attack effortlessly. Guardian's voice remained calm. Enemy weapons are ineffective. Recommend activating Temporal Displacement System. Ji-Wan looked at Nari. What is the Temporal Displacement System? Guardian answered before Nari could speak. It is a defensive system unique to Architect vessels. I can create a field that freezes enemy ships in time. They will be unable to move or fire, suspended in stasis until we release them. Ji-Wan's mind raced. This was exactly what they needed. A way to stop the enemy without killing them. Activate it, Guardian. Target the main battle group, but leave Krex's flagship free. We need to deal with him personally. The Eternal Vigil's hull began to glow with a strange blue-white light. The light spread outward like a wave washing over the Dominion fleet. As it touched each ship, the vessel simply stopped. Frozen in time, the enemy warships hung motionless in space, their weapons still firing but the energy bolts frozen mid-flight. In seconds, 3/4 of the Dominion fleet had been neutralized without a single death. The remaining ships, those near Krex's flagship, hesitated. Their crews had just watched their entire fleet become helpless against a single ancient vessel. Nari stood up from her station. Captain, we have reports coming in from the Council fleet. They are asking if we need assistance. Ji-Wan shook her head. Tell them to stay back. We can handle this, but have them ready to secure the disabled ships once the battle is over. She turned her attention to Krex's flagship. The massive dreadnought was trying to retreat, backing away from the Eternal Vigil. But the ancient ship moved faster. Guardian brought them alongside the enemy flagship in moments. Open a communication channel to Krex, Ji-Wan ordered. The view screen activated, showing Krex on his bridge. The warlord's red eyes burned with fury, but there was also fear there now. He had never expected to lose. Krex, Ji-Wan said, her voice firm but not cruel. Your fleet is defeated. Your weapons cannot harm us, but we have not killed a single one of your crew. We have shown restraint. Now I offer you the same choice you gave the galaxy. Surrender and you will live to face justice. Refuse and we will be forced to take more aggressive action. Krex snarled. I will never surrender to you. The Dominion will rise again. We will. His words were cut off as alarms began blaring on his bridge. Taiyang, monitoring the enemy flagship systems, suddenly shouted a warning. Captain, he is activating a self-destruct sequence. He plans to destroy his flagship and take us with him. Ji-Wan's eyes widened. Can we stop it? Dr. Bora's voice came through from Mars, where she had been monitoring the battle. Captain, I am analyzing their systems now. The self-destruct uses Architect technology. It is powerful enough to destroy both ships, but I think I can transmit a shutdown code. Give me 30 seconds, Nari gripped her console. We do not have 30 seconds. The countdown is at 20, Guardian spoke. I can reroute power to strengthen our shields. We might survive the explosion, but the enemy flagship's crew will perish. Ji-Wan made her decision instantly. No, we do not abandon them. Bora, work as fast as you can. Taiyang, prepare to extend our shields around the flagship. If we cannot stop the explosion, we will contain it. 15 seconds. Bora's fingers flew across her console on Mars. She had never worked faster in her life. The Architect code was complex, but she had studied it for years. She understood its patterns. 10 seconds. Taiyang rerouted every available power source to the shield generators. He was pushing the systems beyond their tested limits, but there was no choice. 5 seconds. Bora found it. The shutdown sequence. She transmitted it, praying it would reach the flagship in time. 3 seconds. The code entered the flagship systems. It fought against Krex's self-destruct command, 2 sets of Architect programming battling for control. 1 second. The self-destruct sequence stopped. The countdown froze at 0.5 seconds. The flagship's reactor, which had been building toward a catastrophic explosion, powered down safely. The bridge of the Eternal Vigil was silent for a moment. Then Taiyang let out a breath he had been holding. It worked. The flagship is stable. Ji-Wan allowed herself a moment of relief. Then she looked at the view screen. Krex was slumped in his command chair, defeated. His attempt to take them all with him had failed. Krex, Ji-Wan said, your war is over. Order your remaining ships to stand down. The warlord looked up at her. For the first time, his eyes held no fury, only emptiness. He had lost everything. Slowly, he nodded. All Dominion forces stand down. The battle is over. Across the Nexus gateway, the remaining Dominion ships lowered their weapons. The war that had threatened to consume the galaxy had ended not with massive destruction, but with restraint and mercy. The Council fleet arrived moments later. They found hundreds of Dominion ships frozen in time, waiting to be safely released and captured. They found Krex's flagship disabled but intact, its crew alive. And they found the Eternal Vigil, the ancient Titan ship, hovering peacefully among the stars. News of the victory spread across the galaxy within hours. Humanity had been given the most powerful weapon ever created, and they had used it not to destroy but to save. They had proven that true strength was not about the ability to kill, but the wisdom to show mercy. On the Eternal Vigil's bridge, Ji-Wan stood and looked at her crew. Humans and aliens working together, they had achieved something remarkable. Nari approached her and offered her hand. "Well done, Captain," Nari said. "You have shown the galaxy what humanity truly stands for." Ji-Wan shook her hand. "We all did this together. Every species, every crew member. This victory belongs to all of us." Guardian's voice spoke one last time. The architects would be proud. "You have proven yourselves worthy of their legacy. The question now is, what will you do with it?" That question would soon be answered in the Galactic Council chambers, where the future of the Titan ships and humanity's role in the galaxy would be decided. 2 weeks after the Battle of Nexus Gateway, the Galactic Council convened once again. But this time, the atmosphere was completely different. There was no panic, no shouting, no fear. Instead, there was a sense of cautious hope. Ambassador Hyun-woo stood at the central podium, just as he had when this crisis began, but now he did not stand alone. Captain Ji-Wan stood beside him, along with Commander Nari and several members of the mixed crew that had served on the Eternal Vigil. They represented what was possible when different species worked together. The council chamber was filled to capacity. Every species in the galaxy had sent representatives to witness this historic session. They all knew that whatever was decided today would shape the future for generations to come. Ambassador Tala of the Vorath was the first to speak. She stood slowly, her ancient eyes moving from Hyun-woo to Ji-Wan. "Captain Ji-Wan, you and your crew have done something remarkable. You wielded the power of the architects, power that could have destroyed entire worlds. But instead of destruction, you showed mercy. Instead of conquest, you showed restraint. The Vorath, who have witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations, are impressed." There were murmurs of agreement throughout the chamber. Ji-Wan bowed her head respectfully. "We only did what was right, Ambassador Tala. The Titan ships were never meant to be weapons of terror. The architects built them to protect, and that is how we chose to use them." Ambassador Vex of the Kalari Union stood next. His logical mind had been analyzing the situation thoroughly. "The question before us now is simple yet profound. What happens to these Titan ships? Humanity has proven they can be trusted with one, but there are more ships still buried on Earth and Mars. How do we ensure that this trust is maintained?" Hyun-woo stepped forward. "Honorable council members, humanity does not wish to keep these ships as our exclusive property. We propose the creation of a new force, the Galactic Guardian Fleet. This fleet would operate the Titan ships under strict council oversight. The crews would be mixed with officers and personnel from many species. The fleet's sole purpose would be to defend the galaxy against threats that no single species could face alone." The chamber buzzed with discussion. Some ambassadors looked intrigued. Others seemed skeptical. Admiral Sung Min, who had traveled from Earth for this session, stepped forward to add his voice. "The Guardian Fleet would not be a human force," Sung Min explained. "It would belong to all of us. Humanity would contribute the ships and our expertise in operating them. But the command structure, the protocols, the mission parameters, all of these would be decided by the Council. We would have observers from multiple species on every vessel, ensuring transparency and accountability." Ambassador Krell of the Thaxian Empire, who had been so angry during the first revelation, now spoke with a different tone. "I was among those who called for sanctions against humanity when we learned of the hidden ships. I thought you were preparing for war. But I was wrong. You were preparing to be guardians. The Thaxian Empire supports this proposal." One by one, other ambassadors voiced their support. Some offered suggestions for how the Guardian Fleet should operate. Others proposed safeguards to prevent abuse of power. The discussion was long and detailed, but it was constructive. Everyone was working toward the same goal. Investigator Quen, who had led the inspection team on Mars, stood to speak. I spent days examining the Titan ships and questioning the human researchers. I went there expecting to find weapons of aggression. Instead, I found scientists dedicated to understanding ancient knowledge. I found engineers working to preserve historic treasures. Captain Jiwan and her team opened every door, answered every question, hid nothing from us. This level of cooperation should be the model for the Guardian fleet. Tala raised her hand, calling for order. The time has come to vote. The proposal is clear. Establish a Galactic Guardian fleet, operating Titan-class vessels under Council authority, with mixed crews and transparent oversight. All in favor. Lights appeared across the chamber as ambassadors registered their votes. Yunwu watched, his heart pounding. This was the moment that would determine humanity's future relationship with the galaxy. The final tally appeared on the main display. The vote was not unanimous, but it was overwhelming. More than 80% of the council had voted in favor. Tala announced the result. The proposal is approved. The Galactic Guardian fleet is hereby established. The chamber erupted in applause. Some ambassadors were cheering. Others were simply nodding in approval. But the message was clear. The galaxy had made its choice. But Tala was not finished. There is one more matter to address. The Guardian fleet will need a commander. Someone who has proven their ability to wield great power with wisdom and restraint. Someone who understands both the capabilities of the Titan ships and the responsibilities that come with them. She turned to Jiwan. Captain Jiwan, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I offer you the position of Fleet Commander of the Galactic Guardian Fleet. Will you accept this responsibility? Jiwan stood speechless for a moment. She looked at Hyunwoo, who nodded encouragingly. She looked at Nari and her other crew members, who were smiling with pride. Finally, she looked out at the assembled ambassadors representing hundreds of worlds. I accept, Jiwan said, her voice firm and clear. But I cannot do this alone. I request that Commander Nari serve as my second-in-command, and I request that my senior staff include officers from at least 10 different species. This fleet belongs to everyone, and its leadership should reflect that. Tala smiled. One of the first times anyone had seen the ancient ambassador show such emotion. Your request is granted, Fleet Commander Jiwan. Assemble your staff. The Guardian fleet is now operational. Over the following weeks, the Guardian fleet took shape. The remaining Titan ships were carefully excavated from Earth and Mars. Each one was given a name that reflected its purpose. The Eternal Vigil remained the flagship, but it was joined by others. The Steadfast Shield, the Merciful Hand, the Wise Sentinel, the United Dawn. Crews were assembled from volunteers across the galaxy. Humans worked alongside Vorath, Kalari alongside Thaxians. Species that had been rivals for centuries learned to trust each other. The Guardian fleet became a symbol of what the galaxy could achieve through cooperation. Dr. Bora was appointed as the fleet's chief science officer. Lieutenant Taeyang became the head of engineering for all Guardian vessels. Both accepted their new roles with enthusiasm, knowing that there was still so much to learn about the architects and their technology. Admiral Sung Min retired from Earth's Defense Forces to serve as an advisor to the Guardian fleet. His experience and wisdom would help guide the fleet through its early challenges. 6 months after the Battle of Nexus Gateway, Fleet Commander Ji-Wan stood on the bridge of the Eternal Vigil. Around her, the other Titan ships hung in formation, their ancient hulls gleaming in the light of a nearby star. The Guardian fleet was ready. Nari approached from her station. Commander Ji-Wan, we are receiving a transmission from the Council. They have a mission for us. Ji-Wan nodded. Display it. The message appeared on the main view screen. A distant colony was under threat from a natural disaster, a collapsing star that would soon destroy their world. The colony did not have enough ships to evacuate everyone in time. They needed help. Ji-Wan did not hesitate. Set course for the colony. Maximum speed. We have people to save. The Guardian fleet moved as one, jumping to faster-than-light travel. As they sped through the stars, Guardian's voice spoke to G1 privately. "The architects built these ships to face a great threat," Guardian said. "That threat may return someday. But until then, you have found a worthy purpose for our legacy. You protect life. You bring hope. The architects would approve." G1 smiled. "We will be ready if that threat returns. But you are right. For now, our mission is to help those in need, to stand guard over the innocent, to prove that the greatest power is not the ability to destroy but the will to protect." Back in the council chambers, Ambassador Hyunwoo watched the news of the Guardian fleet's first rescue mission. He thought about the journey that had brought them here. From the moment they discovered the first Titan ship 300 years ago, humanity had carried a heavy burden. They had kept secrets, faced suspicion, and endured doubt. But in the end, they had proven themselves. Not by conquering, but by protecting. Not by hiding their power, but by sharing it. Not by standing alone, but by standing together with others. Ambassador Tala approached him, moving slowly with the weight of her many years. "Ambassador Hyunwoo," she said, "your species has taught this old galaxy a valuable lesson. The Vorath have seen civilizations rise and fall for millions of years. We have seen species consumed by their own power. But humanity has shown us something different. You have shown us that power, when wielded with wisdom and compassion, can be a force for good." Hyunwoo bowed respectfully. "We learned from the architects. They left us not just their ships but their wisdom. The message was clear. Power without purpose is destruction, but power in service of others is salvation." Tala nodded. "And now you pass that lesson to the rest of us." The Guardian fleet is more than ships and weapons. It is a symbol, a reminder that we are stronger together than we are apart. Out in the distant reaches of space, the Eternal Vigil and her sister ships arrived.